entrepreneurship, let's take a broad
Vanilla.
brush. It's everybody,
One size fits
and it's
all.
not. And
One
it's
size
not
fits
because
all.
I teach my students in my entrepreneurial finance class.
Now, I want to ask you: is it a lack of knowledge? Is it a lack of exposure? What do you think is really causing that lack of representation within the Black community of entrepreneurship?
Number one, I'm going to say, and people don't like this answer, it's complex. There's not one answer to that question. It's a combination of different things that gets layered together. I don't think there's anything wrong with us individually. And when I first started this work here at Morehouse, again, by my dear, and I love him dearly, Dean Williams said to me, go find out what the others are doing and come back and bring the Morehouse way of doing this. Schools and very top prestigious schools that are known for entrepreneurship. And I sat in the back of those classrooms, and the ideas that those students were pitching were exactly the same ideas my students were pitching here at Morehouse. No difference. Here's where the difference was. Many times as they pitch their ideas, they had alums in those rooms that says, I'm going to give you, right in the classroom, my jaw was like, really? I'm going to give you $100K to go test that idea. So my students here were putting out these ideas, which are exactly the same. I didn't have $100K to give them to go test those ideas. They're graduating and they're telling me, I really want to start this thing, but I got the student loan. My mom and my pops are telling me you better take that job at JP Morgan Chase and whatever, so that whole conflict. So there's a difference here of where we're starting from.
Yeah, it is complex.
Right?
Yep.
There's that piece. But if it comes with ideas, we're right there with everyone else. When it comes to resources, we're not. When it comes to opportunities, we're not. When it comes to systemic barriers that are designed to keep us down, we're not. So I think when we start thinking about these things, there's opportunity, yes, for more knowledge, which is what we're doing. We're launching the minor. We're having all these great co-curricular programs. We now have the Center for Black Entrepreneurship, which is raising funds and the emphasis and those types of stuff. But at the end of the day, we cannot ignore some of these systemic things that are still there that we cannot teach away and learn away. And many times curriculums don't address that. Because they're like, oh, we gave you all this knowledge, just go put it in there and put the time in and put the hours in. We got to start with acknowledgement that there are systemic barriers, not that it's going to keep us back and not from trying, but acknowledging them and then figuring out a way to work around them and work within them. So for those reasons, we like to think of our programming of really bringing together the resources part, capital, which is the number one thing everyone talked about, and making sure that that's there. But the capital that we often talked about is often only the financial, and then we stop there. But there are other sources of capital.
Social.
There's social capital, and there's human capital, and there's networks. And to one point that you mentioned, the loneliness, you have to form a community. If you bring, and that's the other way that ideas and things get shared. When I first got here, students will tell me, I got an idea, but I don't want to share it because somebody's going to steal it. I'm like, please, well, first of all, I'm not signing one with you because you're coming to me for help. Right. But the other thing is, if we don't put our ideas out there, that's the only way it's going to revolve and iterate. And so we have to change that mindset that we got to be open. We got to form communities, and we have the Launchpad, the Blackstone Launchpad here now on campus, which is a space for students to come in and really talk and engage and figure out. And just like you hang out at the CAF or in the dorms, you should be doing that of entrepreneurs sharing ideas and iterating and building upon it, right? Everybody thinks they have that unique idea. I mentioned about the podcast. Right. There's like 5 other groups here that want to do this. Exact same thing.
That's funny you said that because I'm an entrepreneur just in my spirit, in my heart. And I know that the MBA said, where were we trying to do a podcast? That's all I needed to hear. I said, oh, okay. So I tabled it in my mind. I saw Charles doing some great things as a freshman. I grabbed him and said, let's do a podcast. I said, it's going to be raggedy for a minute. We'll figure it out as we go. And obviously
that part right there.
And obviously we've had our challenges recently. We've had to figure this stuff as we grow with anything. And I knew that. But for me, it was just like, let's just get it done. Let's just get it done. I don't need to hear about what we can't do. It's got to do this. Let's just get it done. And that's the first thing. So I feel like this is entrepreneurial.
Yes.
in itself right here that we did this. The podcast is brand,
100%.
and we're trying to brand it. We're trying to do things. We're going to have a website, all that stuff. Here's the second thing that I agree with you on. I went through the Goldman Sachs program, 10,000 Small Business program. And you know they have BAPS, and,
Yep.
which is supposed to be the,
Number one.
and we're not going to cut that out. But
Shout out to that.
Shout out Goldman.
and shout out Goldman too. But
Yes.
and I went through that program and I noticed that there was like, okay, you have people of color in this environment, but it was the stuff that we were studying and going through the modules. That's the word I was looking for. The modules that we were going through, except for the finance piece. All the other modules were kind of slanted. It's like, well, I don't really deal with that in my community. Well, I don't deal with that with my my customer base, And so, how do you address that? So they didn't really know how to address it because it's like entrepreneurship. Let's take a broad brush. It's everybody,
one size fits
and it's
all.
not, and
One
it's
size
not
fits
because
all.
I teach my students in my entrepreneurial finance class. I was like, we have to be just a little bit better, know our numbers just a little bit better, so we can prove that not only the idea is great, but we're on top of it too. And I don't think our counterparts. This is real conversation here. I don't think our counterparts have that hurdle.
I'm going to agree with you with that, and shout out to one of our other colleagues. So Dr. Keith Hollingsworth have some great research papers out there that really says and talks to that point, right? Which is why I think who else other than Morehouse
That's right.
needs to become the epicenter of Black business research and Black business practice.
Gotta be us.
And we're starting, and again, to the point, not talk about it, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
So thanks to JP Morgan Chase.
Shout out
to
JP Morgan
Chase.
Chase.
We
We sure do a lot of shout outs in these podcasts.
Yay.
we need some advertising dollars.
We're doing one of the largest study on Black business
Yeah.
right now in how to provide technical assistance to Black businesses, because there's still a debate out there, like we did with entrepreneurship a few years ago, on what's the nuances. A business is a business. Well, one size does not fit all, right?
Right.
To your point, that
Yep.
there's the level of trust. There's the level of building community. There's the level of so many different aspects that I believe that as we continue to do this research and to do the practice with both our students and the businesses in the community, Morehouse will become that center where folks look to say, answer that question that you asked about. What are these barriers and how do we eradicate and bring these barriers down so that we are more successful than the 2.4 percentage of all businesses where we represent right now, with 13% of the U.S. population, but only 2.4%
Wow.
of all businesses are Black. We got to change